everyone, I am Misty Doan and welcome to the show. I'm actually really excited as things are starting to open back up. People are getting to travel and see new places and kind of get out there again. And Riley Blake has a wonderful collection of destinations panels. So I filmed a little video. We get lots of requests from our friends to the north about Canadian projects. So I focused on that, but Riley Blake's panels are for all kinds of wonderful destinations. So I wanted to just share this little video with you, so be sure to check it out. As you can see from this little quilt behind me, we have made this great Canada quilt from this destination panel by Riley Blake, and it is so fun. So this is how the panel comes. And I will talk you through a little bit about how I made this specific one. But I hope what this does is it opens your eyes to any panel like this and gives you some options on how you can play with it, cut it up, and put it into a quilt. Because, you know, that's what we like to do around here.
Panels are so fun, and it's really a great opportunity to, like, how do you cut it up and put it back together in a cute fashion?
Exactly, and I love that because, Liz, you work with panels a lot.
I love panels.
You do.
Panels are one of my favorites to work with, so I'm really excited about today.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too, and I have appreciated your encouragement along the way to look at them with new eyes, you know, because as someone who loves to piece, I don't always feel drawn to panels because I'm like, well, then what am I going to do, you know? But with some guidance from Liz and some cheering me on, we decided to tackle this, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Now, this panel is really cute in and of itself. It features many different locations around Canada. You can see we've got Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, Quebec, and many, many more, and you know, some scenes that accompany those parts of that great country. But I wanted more red in my quilt honoring Canada, and so I went and pulled a SKU that matched and decided to really you know, bring it all together with some more red and sash all of these blocks. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut out each of our little vignettes at 6 3/4 by 9. And so let's start down here.
Okay, so, and if you're asking about which red we've used, we've linked that in our description box below.
Okay, awesome. So be sure to check that out and you can get the exact shade that we used here. And let me show you how we started cutting. So we're gonna want these to end up 6 3/4 by 9. And initially, when I first got to my panel down here, I wanted to keep this little inner border that was on all of the blocks. But if you look at the quilt behind me, you can see those aren't there anymore. And let me tell you why. When I first measured, I just put my ruler all the way around and I started cutting out my blocks. And then I got up here to this larger Canada maple leaf moose image in the middle. And if you notice, this part doesn't have a border. It runs right into it. And so when I went to lay my ruler here, I realized I wasn't going to leave enough seam allowance to keep Canada in the quilt. I was going to lose part of the letters. And I was like, well, that can't happen. And so then I had to rework my plan a little bit. And so now I'm saving you that trouble.
Sure.
So maybe start with your biggest image because a lot of these panels have different sizes. So I would cut your largest one first and figure out what size you want that to measure and then work from there. This one ended up being, I believe I cut it at 10. Let me flip this over. Yes, 10 by 14 and a half is what this one ended up. So just plan on that. And like I said, these other ones are 6 3/4 by 9. So let's go ahead and cut that out. And so to begin with, we're just going to cut right along the edge of that border that's around our shape. We'll just make a cut. And I just like to straighten this out and measure over the 6 3/4. So we got 1, 2, I'm going to move this over so my brain doesn't have to work so hard.
There you go.
You know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we need that 3/4. And these initial cuts can be kind of tricky because you're really just eyeballing it off the fabric and you can't so much use your ruler because of how large the panel is.
Right.
And you want to make sure that you're cutting these straight, but you just have to kind of go with it. And you'll see, whoops, I shifted there, there we go. it really does end up like right on the outside of your border when you cut it. So then let's go ahead and cut this top piece off, and then we will trim it down to what we want it to measure.
And these are forgiving that way, right? So you can
Exactly.
You can work with it. One thing that we get asked sometimes is my panel came and it's kind of askew.
That's actually really common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the way it's folded on the bolt and stretched onto the bolt that it can make it askew. Don't panic. You can stretch it back into the right shape.
Exactly.
And go for it. So you can use the print to do your cutting and then trim down.
And I think that's a good thing to call out because of how these are printed and then rolled, they can kind of get skewed. And if you're looking really closely at this, this is definitely skewed. But that's okay. We can even fix most of that in our trimming.
Right.
And so I'm just going to start here, and I'm going to square off this bottom side. There's that. And then we know it needs to measure 9 inches this direction, so we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and trim off the top. There we go. And just by, making sure that they're nice and square, the little bit of skew that you have from the panel itself is going to be lost once you piece it back together. And so this is how I cut out all of my blocks. They all measured this, and then I sashed them on the first row and the third and fourth row with just a 2.5 by 9 inch sashing piece in between. For this here, since these measure 9 and this measures 10, I went ahead and put a 1 inch strip on top of both sides. And so that measures 1 by 6 3/4, and you can see then I just lay that across here and sew a 1/4 inch seam. And then if you need to trim it again to get that perfect 10 inch measurement, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room, which I always prefer. I like to have a little bit of extra so that I can keep it all square.
Rather trim it down than try to stretch it out.
Exactly,
yes.
Exactly. And so I just wanted to show you this idea because as you can see, it comes together really quick. So it's just got these little sashes here that make this match up with our larger piece. Again, sashed with the 2.5 in the middle. And then it worked out that the size of that row was the exact same width as these other ones.
Snazzy.
Which I didn't even plan. I thought I was going to have to trim it down, and it just worked out perfectly. And so then I added this first 2.5 inch border, just continued the sashing all the way around, and then an 1.5 inch border here. And then I added a 4 inch border top and bottom and a 5 inch on the side. And that's just because I wanted it to be just a little bit wider than it was. And that's always an option. You can change your border size.
That's a good hint, right?
It is. They don't have to be the same size all the way around. And honestly, if I hadn't pointed it out, you probably wouldn't even really notice that they're different sizes. So that's really it.
And you've got super fun quilting on this.
Exactly. I had to go with the maple leaf quilting, which I think is perfect for Canada, obviously. And you can see it's kind of fun here. I just used this muslin color on the back, but the stitching shows up so nicely. And then let me show you some of these other great panels that Riley Blake has, because it's not just for Canada. So let's look here. Here's an awesome one that's for Nashville. Isn't that so cool?
I love it. And it's fun. You can take the same ideas, right? So you would make it larger than the 9 by 6 3/4.
Exactly.
But same process.
But same
you could choose
concept.
any color. And
just measure your big blocks, see what they end up. Let's see what this one is over here. Ooh, this one's for Texas. Look at that. These are so cool. And if you are someone who likes to travel, this is a great way to make a quilt to commemorate your journeys. Here's a nice big one for New England.
Love the lighthouse.
The lighthouse is so cool.
And the art on these panels is so fun. And what's great, too, is you can use this for all kinds of panels. So like Misty said, panels are one of my favorite things to work with.
Exactly.
And I love, you can add some simple borders, and it just makes it a little more ooh-ah.
I love that, too. This one's Alaska, and then I think I've got one more here that is California.
Very nice.
So much fun. So like I said, I hope this inspired you to look at panels with a different set of eyes and to realize that just because it's all put together in a panel doesn't mean you can't cut it up and make it how you want. So try some new things, go on adventures. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this and that your minds have been open to all kinds of ideas and ways to approach panels in a new way. Enjoy your travels. Have a wonderful summer, and we'll see you next week.